Hello and welcome to week 2 of the class. This week is really focused on creating digital art. And there's a lot of different options out there. A lot of you probably have apps that you're already using to create art. So I really wanted to try and create assignments that would be very, very broad, and you can choose among those very broad options. But I did want to give kind of an overview of what you are creating, as well as some options that are out there in case you don't have any that you ever use. So if I click on the overview and readings, it'll take me here. And again, these are our objectives. Um, Digital art exploration ideas is the main one that you want to go to. And here I tried to lay out the most basic ones. If you've never created digital art before, you are not sure that you probably ever want to create it again. You just want the most basic one that's going to satisfy the requirements of this assignment, which is just fine. Weave Silk is the most basic one that you can go to, and I'll show you in just a moment what Weave Silk looks like. If you do choose to use Weave Silk, you need to switch and have 3 different colors. Here's how to use it. It is super easy. It's a graphic um, digital art. The second most basic one is pixel art, and it does pixels. If you think about the old-fashioned computer games that are all pixelated, that's what pixel art does, and I'll show you how to use that one. Now, Metabang is one that comes highly recommended from several students that I had last semester, as well as several people I know that are graphic designers use Metabang. It is a free download. So you do have to download it, but if that is something, if you are definitely more into using digital art and using it more than just for this assignment, that might be one that you want to look into. And then these are much more advanced ones. Now, a lot of these do require you to have some kind of a digital pen that you can use. Some of them work better if you actually have a drawing tablet. Um, and if you already have one, that's great. Some of them you can just use your phone and use a stylus or a digital pen on those. Krita is considered to be one of the best free downloads for any kind of more extensive art. It does have a pretty steep learning curve to it. So if you're not really interested in investing much time or effort into learning digital art, then you probably don't want to go with Krita. Clip Studio Paint is also well recommended by a lot of people. One, there is one that you can an option to choose, but there is a free option as well. Again, this is more of a digital pen one, but anyway, that is there as well. So let me take a few moments and show you how to use Weave Silk, and I've already opened it up here on one of my tabs. So when you first get on, this is what you see: is it just says Silk, says draw something. So you click on it and you can tell you can draw various things. You can go over here on controls. This is where you switch to different colors. You can do mirror across the center. I can turn that off, and then I just um, it's more of creating a variety of shapes and graphic designs than really creating some of the other ones where you're drawing actually figures and things like that. Now I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing, I'm just kind of doing random moments here. This will count for the purposes of digital art because my goal here is that you are attempting digital art. This is the most basic of digital art. There are people, if you go online and Google it, there are people who've used Weave Silk to create like a lion's face and different things like that requires a dexterity and time that I personally have no desire to do. So like what I just created here would work for the purposes of this assignment if you want to go that route. That's our digital art. Now, pixel art is the other one that is super easy to use, and I would suggest so you go to pixel art, it says start drawing, and you have a lot of, you can start in figuring out the height and all those things. I'm just going to click on drawing. And there's a lot of different tools. There's a lot of different tutorials out there that you can use. I personally like the stamp tool, and then I've got a lot of different options here. Maybe I'll use the heart. I can go with the heart, and I can make it bigger, and I can, oh, maybe I want to then add, oh, let's see, a line to it or something. So then I'm going to draw like, woo, lines around. It is really up to you. There's a lot you can do with pixel. As you can tell, everything is pixelated. So if that might not be your aesthetic, such, then there's other options out there. But something like this, and I write up a little thing about what I did to it. I mean, and then I can change the background. Let's see. And let's see, I changed to a different color. Right, so there's different things I can move there. Now layers, you will be reading an article about layers, and this is layers. Layers is nice because let's say that I make a lot of changes to this heart and I put it on one layer. And then I want to make a lot of changes to the background and I put it on a second layer. What's nice if I have two layers is that even if I mess up the background, it doesn't impact that first layer. That's what it means by layers. And I'll tell you, I was working on a graphic design project just this last semester where it was for an article that I was writing, and it was anyway, I didn't do layers because that wasn't very smart of me. I was like, I don't need layers. I know what I'm doing. And I messed up a really complex part of the chart, and it threw off the spacing of the entire rest of the chart, and I had to start over. But if I had created it on layers and then put the layers together, I could have messed up a third layer, but the first two wouldn't have been negatively impacted. So when I created it again, I created it with layers. Yay! So it happens to the best of us. But that's the concept behind layers, and what that article is talking about is that you create it on different layers. And I believe I go over here and yep, and then I can have different layers. So then I could create something on this layer. Could create something on this layer, and then okay, I maybe could I don't know. Anyway, I could create, and then I could bring my layers together and create it from there. So that's pixel art. Those are the two, that and Weave Silk are the two easiest to use. So if you're just doing it for this assignment, and it's not something that you want to pursue much more beyond just this assignment, use those two. Now, I also have a link to additional digital art programs, and these are some that is discussed in the various videos, but it's also talked about, or my students suggested last semester. Here, there's a bunch of different sketchbook ones. So these are the more drawing ones. There's a sketchbook for educators. It's free for 3 years for students. So if you're interested in sketchbook, that might be one to look at. If you have an iPad, Procreate it costs $10 for the app, but it is a graphic design friend of mine uses Procreate on her iPad for every graphic design project that she does. She just absolutely loves it. There's a couple. This reviews a bunch of different sketching apps and says which ones are the best. We get here back to GIMP and Krita are both really they're complex to use. They're great for what they do, but they're complex. And they have a steep learning curve. If you're really interested in Photoshop, but you don't want to go the Photoshop route because Photoshop is expensive, these are two that you might want to think about. Illustrator, there's Inkscape, Vector. Vector is really good for designing logos, because vectors are much more straight lines, and how are you creating shapes. So if you're looking into branding, so you have your own business and you want to create your own logo, a vector design program is an excellent idea. You can do that for this. These are the free versions of more of an InDesign. Blender is more like your Premiere. Again, a very strong learning curve, so I would suggest not getting into it unless you really have a lot of interest in this. So these again are just other options. Okay, I'm going to go back here. Here's the article on tips for using layers. Again, layers really help on that. This goes through a lot of different examples of how they drew this and how they drew it with layers. and how if you're changing things around, layers are going to help you out in that regard. You read through that article and see what you would like to do. But Weave Silk does not have layers, so it's just what it is. And then you can see there's a couple other things here. Adobe Creative, which has the Adobe Creative Suite, which would have InDesign, Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator. They do have one for students that is $20 a month for the first year. So if you are going to into a job that you think you need to have understanding of Photoshop and Illustrator and those other ones, that's actually a really good deal for what it is. That might be one that you want to pursue. There are some free alternatives to Adobe Creative Suite, and they are listed here. Again, these are recommended readings. You're not required to read them, but anyway. And then there's some free tutorials and different things that you can do with digital art. This is really our week because it's the summer and I had to smush everything in. When this class is a whole semester, we spend several weeks on different digital art programs. I smushed it into this 1 week. So this is really our main creating art for the sake of creating art. The other weeks we're going to be creating art, but for more specific purposes. So for the discussion is on Wednesday. On Sunday, you have the creating art assignment. You choose one of those digital art programs and you create art. It can be about anything you want. If you need an idea for a topic, I often find creating something about nature or plants or trees are usually, create a flower, are usually good topics to try, but it is really up to you what you want to draw. Weave Silk, you experiment with colors and shapes. So after you create your digital art, you want to upload the file to this assignment and then include a paragraph about what digital art program you chose, why you chose that one, and just about the process you went through in creating there. Anything that you ran into that was frustrating or is really straightforward, or you're interested in pursuing other options, anything like that. So that is week 2. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Yeah, I hope you have fun creating art.